Hello again, ladies and gents. Welcome back to your favourite show, the AJ Roberts Show. Today we have the amazing Niamh McGarry-Gribbin. How are you?
Hi AJ, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm awesome. As you know, it's a lovely day today, and I thought, what better way while the sun's out and everything's quite positive that we have somebody like yourself on the show that's been doing amazing things to do with the outdoors. Now, for the guys and girls listening at home, me and Niamh met face to face on our mine and Harry's tour around the UK, and she was explaining to me about the amazing work she's doing within communities and how she can acquire land and turn them into community allotments and that. So I was really fascinated by this whole concept. So I wanted Niamh to come onto the show just to explain to the wider public, just a kind of a bit about the process, but just the amazing sort of productivity it has as a result, I think, is the main thing, because we want to see positive end results at the end of the day when we try to do anything, right? So yeah, Niamh, welcome to the show. And first of all, let's just start with a bit about your background, really, because obviously you didn't just kind of like from a child say, right, this is what I'm going to do when I'm older. It was if you explain a bit about your background and where this whole journey started for you and why you're doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. I was a nurse for 27 years, and for 6 years I was a theatre nurse, and then went into caring for the elderly and managed dementia units. And there was quite a few experiences that have led me to where I am now. And firstly, as a theatre nurse, I encountered a lady having orthopaedic surgery under acupuncture. Nothing, no anaesthetic, no pain relief, absolutely nothing, just acupuncture. And that put me on the road to learning about Reiki and plant and herb-based medicine. So that's one element that has led me to where I am now. And then the other element was managing care homes. I was a whistleblower in a notorious case of neglect. And as a consequence, was a campaigner for the elderly for the last 10 years. So I learned very early on with the COVID pandemic about the midazolam murders and what they were doing in the nursing homes, and started speaking out and giving everybody the recipe for hydroxychloroquine, because, as I say, I'm into plant and herb-based medicine. So I became known in the Northwest, speaking at the rallies in Liverpool and Manchester, as the hydroxychloroquine nurse. And from that led on to this community that I've developed using a time banking system to try and get away from the need of cash, minimise the need for cash to get around the UBI system and the social credit system. And that time banking system has gone nationally as well as globally. But as aside from that, I realised that we have our own healthcare team. We cover everything from acupuncture, Reiki. We do have doctors and nurses on board. So we're developing an alternative health and wellbeing system focused on health promotion and holistic healthcare. So we're starting teaching Reiki and meditation first off, but we're also focused on nutrition as well, and of course plant and herb-based medicine. So that brings us into the life skills side of the project. So we're teaching people, those that sign up have to pledge their skills and knowledge that they wish to share. And we're setting up 2 curriculums, one for adults and one for children, teaching them the skills that they need to be independent of the systems. But of course, aside from that is growing our own food. So I actually set up a community interest company, which went against the grain initially. Everyone was against the idea because, of course, that's kind of going into corporate world. But I put it to everyone, and as I asked them, anyone a millionaire, can they buy land? Anyone got any land? And of course, everyone said no. I said, who doesn't need to eat? So that was the end of the argument, really. So I set up the CIC. And we started getting some funding, and we've partnered with a local urban farm, and we're now working on their allotment and starting to teach organic growing and permaculture using the no dig method. And we're now networking with people in the council who are looking to offload community green spaces to community groups to manage, because of course they've got budget deficits. So we're looking to set up community allotments right across the world and encourage people to grow their own food.
Amazing.
So yeah, so it's really taken off.
Just stepping back a little bit, you talked about being like the hydroxychloroquine lady of the, you know, the whole local area. Obviously, if you're making it yourself, what's the actual main components of hydroxychloroquine?
It's so simple. It's really unbelievable. It's in lemon peel, lime peel, and grapefruit peel. Now, I never use grapefruit because it's contraindicative with people taking blood pressure medication. So I never know who's going to use my batch of hydroxychloroquine. So I only use lemon peel and lime peel. And you just use the peel only, put it in a pan, and you just cover the peel with water. You don't fill the pan, just cover the peel only. But it's important to put a lid on the pan and keep the lid on, because the quinine can be lost in the steam. So you have to keep a lid on the pan. Bring it to the boil, and then you just lower it and simmer it for 2 hours. Leave it to cool. Take off the lid, and the liquid left is your hydroxychloroquine, and you just sieve out the peel and bottle it. It keeps for 9 months. You take 20 mils, which is 4 teaspoons, 4 times a day, only for 3 days while you've got symptoms. And it's not recommended for pregnant women or breastfeeding women because it can be neurotoxic to a developing baby and fetus and does cross the brain barrier. Okay. But anyone else, an older child, I'd say 3 onwards, it's safe to take.
It's quite amazing, really, that you say that, because making it naturally, something so simple as lemon and lime peel. Because I had Dawn Lester and David Parker on the show yesterday, which who wrote the book "What Actually Makes Us Ill," and you know, obviously pharmaceuticals is obviously a big thing. So people think, oh yeah, I've got symptoms of all this stuff, I need to take these pharmaceuticals to cure it. But like, there's no pharmaceutical that cures anything. It's just basically half of it's placebo effect, you know, especially with like pain relief and stuff like that. Absolutely. But you're putting chemicals in your body, whereas in something like that, you know, you can get hydroxychloroquine in the tablet form, but again, you're really just putting chemicals in your body. Whereas something so simple like this, in its natural form, which has been around for centuries, it is far, far superior to anything that you try to get over the counter. Or at the very least, like what the governments have been trying to suppress, because they don't make any money on selling lemon and limes, do they? It's just amazing, and you know, this has been like such a fascinating journey for myself. Even coming from like a health and nutrition background, you know, over many years with strength and conditioning coaching, stuff like that. But just, it's a never-ending journey. And I never thought, you know, I'd end up growing my own food, and like, I'm literally all over it like a rash at the minute. It's amazing. But you can just see the sheer benefits of it. And I think when you see how much impact big pharma, big tech, big food has on our Western societies, and how much they suppress everything, you only need to look at the quality of the food you actually end up getting from these supermarkets, and they're not particularly great, and the cost is just going up and up and up at the minute, in line with fuel and stuff like that. So I think if anybody's looking to save a few pennies, growing your own foods sort of should be up right at the top of your agenda, right?
Absolutely. Well, whilst I've been doing this, and as I say, we're gaining plots of land, so I've been collating teams of people to maintain each plot, looking at various, you know, people's skills, different age groups and abilities, and skills and knowledge. Under, of course, the tuition of the skilled and experienced gardeners, of whom I'm one, because I've been a gardener for 30 years, and I've actually been growing my own food for about 10 years. So I've learned a lot along the way. And so we've been promoting the no-dig method, which goes against the grain for a traditional gardener, because of course normally you take a fork and a spade and you dig the land, you know, so it does go against the grain. But you lay down cardboard first, and then compost, and it's best to start working the land in November, but you can do it now. This is your last moment really, up until the end of March, to start preparing the land ready for the seedlings to be transplanted in May. And it's because you're restricting the light to the ground, putting the cardboard in the compost, it minimises the weeds. So it minimises that time and the labour that you need to spend weeding, and and it actually produces 3 times as many crops. And then, of course, we've got the cost of fertiliser and everything going up. So I've been learning about using what they call nettle tea. There are 16 nutrients that plants need. Nettles contain all 16 nutrients. So if you go cultivating nettles, steep them in water for 3 to 4 weeks outside in a bucket, and basically pour that on your plants, and there's your natural fertiliser.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And then if you
it's going back to basics, isn't it? It's going back to like the stuff before, way before, the technological advancements that we had were around. Is just going back to basics. And I think there's so much good things come out of it. I think, because everything should be result driven, shouldn't it? So, everything we do should have an end result, really. Otherwise, what's the point? You're just existing, right? But at the same time, we need to eat. But I think there's a lot to be taken away from growing your own food, and it's and I think just the projects that you run and learning things like that are absolutely fascinating. And sometimes I'm going to start questioning myself. I'm like, am I showing my age here? Like, but it's not. It's just like simple stuff that's just been, again, that responsibility has been taken away from us.
Yes.
Because it's like, let's drive to the supermarket or click and collect and stuff like that. So if you save time doing all your own shopping or growing your own food, because they want to replace that time with you working for these big corporations.
Yeah. Well, this is the difficulty I've actually found, AJ. Whilst I've been collating these teams who are from the truther awake brigade, as they say, I have come across some resistance from parents who've said to me, oh, well, I'm working, I'm too busy. And I just think, what? You know what's going on. You know there are going to be global food shortages. You are too busy to prepare a continuous food cycle for your children. I think, wow. And I just think the level of sort of apathy and ignorance, it's just been unbelievable.
Yeah, again, people have got their limits, I think, to what they think will happen, but also what they're prepared to do in preparation for that. So myself, I'm growing my own food. I'm doing it on a big scale. As I mentioned, up at where my studio is, got some, great bit of land there, and we're going to get kids involved. Amazing project, and document it all, and actually create a model, not like what you're doing, but how to get children involved and understand why organic grown food is so important and the health benefits of it. But also from a financial perspective, investing in cryptos that are going to be a big part of what we do moving forward. XRP is going to be a huge part of the quantum financial system and stuff like that, which again, people probably listening might be like, what is this? But again, it's just, you need to learn this stuff. Don't get caught blindsided, because if forgive me if I'm wrong, but how many people have been blindsided the last 2 years?
Absolutely.
And longer than that. So I think, you've got to learn your lessons from the last couple of years, if anything. And this is proof of the pudding. There's a lot of people out there that don't want you to be healthy. So again, we need to take control of that sovereignty, don't we, and that power back on ourselves, and growing our own sustainable food and within communities, and like I say, in time bank systems, and that's brilliant. On that time bank system, can you just explain a bit to the viewers and listeners just what that actually means in terms of exchange?
Yeah, people pledge their skills, knowledge and experience, and also what they're willing to teach. I'll give an example. Excuse me.
I've got some hydrochloroquine if you want some.
I do, yes. Let's feel myself. One of our members, Donna, her car failed its MOT just before Christmas in November. She's a struggling single parent, and was given a cost of close to £800, couldn't afford it. So Steve, one of the guys in the hub, he's an experienced mechanic. So he fixed the car for free. His labour was for free. It cost her about £180 just in resources and materials. Took him about 9.5 hours to do it in total. He banked that 9.5 hours in his account, and he's doing his house up. So he's going to use those 9.5 hours for plasterers and electricians, but obviously he will have to pay for those resources. But whilst those services are being done, we're also going to be teaching. So the whole idea is to share those life skills. So anyone who wants to teach wants to learn plastering and basic electrics, will learn on site in the job as well. So it goes hand in hand with the time and the life skills.
Yeah, it's actually really simple when you break it down. And I was talking to my wife about this on a walk the other week, saying like, if they took away the monetary system and there wasn't an exchange of money, you know, like say that living on a new build estate, for example, you're not going to get like all these traders just turn up every day and just build a house, you know, and not get paid for it. It's just not going to happen. So I think if you bring that time element into it, obviously individually they bank all that time for building these houses, and then they individually have things done for them by other people in certain areas. So you can totally see the money I guess they would have spent on doing something at their own house or in some other field that they're not an expert in. Yes. You know, they've created that through time.
Yes. Well, the system, the way we have it is that the pupils give their time. Say there's one tutor and they have, say, 15 pupils, and the tutor takes an hour or two preparing for the lesson. Well, that hour or two is, you know, has to be accounted for. So the lesson lasts an hour. So the 15 pupils will pledge an hour into the community hub account, the community account. And the tutor will get paid for the, say, 2 hours preparation, time traveling to the lesson to account for petrol, the time delivering the lesson, and any after, you know, homework and all that will all come out of the sort of community hub. And then, so they'll be paid for their time. And then the rest of the community hub gets paid to the health team. So that if they're seen to clients, well, we didn't feel it was ethical for clients to have time taken out of their account to pay for the healthcare team. So the healthcare team are paid from the community hub account. It sounds difficult to explain, but it's so simple.
Yeah. And to be fair, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching and listening can just see the simplicity of it and just like, wow, yeah, this makes so much sense. And I'm sure I'm even picturing it right now, just how much nicer it is, because you're not just exchanging time, are you? You're actually helping other people. Whereas like a lot of people's day is taken up either working for somebody else, which builds up a lot of stresses in the system, and then they don't ever really are never really in a place doing anything for anybody else. It's all very much self-driven, isn't it? Whereas like this is so well structured and community based that all you're ever going to see is people doing things for other people, and that's probably right. 9 times out of 10 with a big fucking smile on their face.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good buzz, and we've had a good bonding experiences as well. We've been doing things together as a team. We live on the banks of the Mersey. We've been learning to do sea fishing, you know, on the banks of the river, and you know, you don't need a license for that. That's free. So we've been learning to do that. Learning to do radio communications. We're about to go on a competent crew sailing course together, you know, so we're learning different skills together as a team in case they're ever needed. It's proposed that we might be doing archery in May, because you never know. So it's been a good bonding experience for the team as well.
Get in there before the government bang blooming bows and arrows as well.
That's it. But you know, it's been great for everyone pooling this knowledge. And then people say to me, well, what happens if you've got no skills and you know, or you're disabled and you can't contribute? Well, my answer to that is, firstly, everyone's got a skill. There's something that everyone can contribute, whether it be, you know, washing dishes, walking a dog, or, you know, there's always something anyone can do. And as far as the sick and disabled are concerned, there is no way we would leave anyone behind. And the whole idea of this model that I've put together is that to gain sufficient numbers so that we can care for somebody and their holistic needs 24/7 without it costing them a penny, because we've got, and without them having to leave their home and go into a care home, because we've got, you know, carers, doctors, nurses, we've got dog walkers, people who will do housework, shopping, cooking, cleaning, gardening, DIY, electrics, plumbing, all for free. It's just going to cost in material and resources.
Yeah, I mean, it is, when you say that, really simple, isn't it? And time is the most expensive currency in the world, and you know, people really forget that. And you can just see how much power it has in a positive way by bringing it into such a structure like this. I mean, other than your particular area, are there other people doing other things similar around the country, or have you created like the model, like in this area, and now pretty much cascading it across the land?
Well, I do know there are other people doing similar things, but because what I've put together appears to be working, and you know, people have said there's no point in reinventing the wheel. So I have been speaking at local events, and because of that, it has got out, word got out. So I've just been emailing my paperwork that I developed to people. It's very basic, very simple, and it's just a starting point for people, you know, if they want to develop themselves, or if they wish to run with what I've put together, you know. But you know, the way I see it, AJ, if I can do it, anyone can, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you know, we're all capable of amazing things. It's just having that belief that you can actually do something, you know, good and to the benefit of yourself, your health, your family, and things like that. Because again, like confidence and personal beliefs and other things have been drawn out of people. You know, it's been pretty horrible to see, you know, and I've seen it within friends and family, just how much the last couple of years has drained them. And you can just see the power that these entities have over populations using behavioral sciences and stuff like that, you know, which we talk about in my talks and stuff, you know, when like when we met up in the Northwest. It's been quite damning. So I think doing stuff like this really helps people escape that matrix, doesn't it? That, you know, that cult that they want us in. And it's only got future benefits. Like, I don't see any downside to it personally.
Well, everything that they've thrown at us, and everything, we know what's coming, because as we know, it's all written there. You only have to look for it. We know what's coming down the line. I just see it as a great challenge and opportunity, and I've just been growing and running with it. I think it's been fantastic, and I see now how my different life experiences and life skills have led me to where I am now, and why I've needed those experiences to enable me and facilitate me, and the people I've been networking with, the team I'm involved with, because of course I'm not doing this on my own. The team I'm involved with are absolutely phenomenal people. They really are. And it's great what we're achieving and what we're working towards together.
Yeah, it is. And I've been talking about the power of community quite a lot recently. And I jumped onto Harry's little show last night as his guest. It was quite nice to be on the other side of the mic. And we were talking about the power of community, the stand in the parks, the getting around the country like we're doing, you know, because every venue we go to, there's obviously a different group of people, and just how amazing it is, and every single place brings another opportunity. Do you think that the last couple of years has really shown you how powerful community can be in a positive way, where, you know, especially those who have seen right through all this BS from day one and come together? Are you really seeing like real big signs of just how powerful that is?
Very much so. The people I'm now networking with, I've only come to meet because of circumstances, and we would never have met if it hadn't been for Boris and his chum. So thank you, you know, boys and girls there in Westminster, you know, because we realise now who and what we are and our power, and the power's with us. You know, they've only got this perceived authority. The power is with us. As soon as we take away that power, take away that authority, realise that bills and taxes are fraud and theft, and stop paying them, and stand on our own 2 feet with our own sovereignty, their house of cards totally falls. They only have this authority and this power and money because we allow it and we give it to them.
Yeah.
And we have been brainwashed, we have been indoctrinated, but a lot of us are awake now, we're aware, and of course it's spreading, and it needs to spread, it needs to grow faster, regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. People need to come together as communities, put all the differences aside. We're all one, we're all consciousness, and we should all be growing our food together and putting the love back in the earth and ascending consciously as as a race, and that's what all this is about. It's spiritual war as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've touched on it quite a lot recently, and had Pam Gregory on. Obviously, me and Harry talk about it a lot, and we've spoken about it offline quite a bit as well. Do you think the project, or have you seen it help people increase the level of their consciousness and the level of their spirituality?
Yes, actually. I've had a couple of people, funnily enough, men, who've said that they realise a lot of things now. That's not all woolliness and, woo-woo stuff. And they realise that there is some life force and there's this consciousness, and once they've realized that, this synchronicity and the things that have happened to them have been amazing. So there's been a lot more men who've been coming on board and saying this recently. And on the community allotment that we have down on the urban farm, one of the ladies actually said to me just after our first session, they're just turning over the soil and working in manure. She said to me how great it was for her mental well-being, and she didn't realize until that morning how much she needed to be out and amongst nature and with like-minded people.
Yeah, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? I don't think people are so busy, especially in the UK, US, Canada, Australia, places like that. We've been set up, haven't we, to be in these crazy busy lifestyles. We get up, you throw your clothes on, you go to work. After half the people come home, they don't like their jobs. They bring that stress home as well. And doing that fantastic episode with Dawn and David about just what really makes us ill, just literally the light bulbs are just go like that, and you'll see the trends in your life and how much stress, toxins in the body, even EMF exposure, all this stuff is what actually makes you ill. And our populations and our communities have put into this, and we're born into it, especially this generation. So just goes to show you how detrimental that can be. And then once you step away from that, then you go from you do, don't you? You go from 3D into 4D into 5D, and people who've known me a long time are probably listening to this going, "What the fuck is AJ on about? He's lost the plot." But it is a genuine thing, and when you start going into that 5D experiences, you see everything so much clearer. And I did a podcast with Mr. Ike a few months ago, and it wasn't about all this controversial stuff that he's talked about for many years. It was very much about consciousness and escaping the mind prison of the 5 senses and all this kind of stuff. And it was really fascinating conversation. And that even that conversation alone just made me dig and dig and dig even more. And we spoke yesterday about the experiences I'm having, which is off the charts, but in a really amazing way. It's sometimes hard to describe because it's quite personal, but I think once you step out of that matrix they want you in, you just naturally start seeing these synchronicities. You start understanding your purpose more, don't you? And what you can actually contribute. Yeah,
it's amazing. Well, when I suffered the consequences of being a whistleblower, that's when I went down the rabbit hole, as they say, because as I was campaigning and putting in abuse and neglect in my search bar, all this childhood and satanic childhood and abuse stuff kept coming up, and I wouldn't look at it for a long time. I thought, I'm not reading that. I don't need to look at that kind of nasty stuff. But I had this voice in the back of my head that just kept saying to me, you need to look at this. And of course, because of what I've been through as the whistleblower and what they'd done to me, I suffered a major nervous breakdown, and I did lose the plot, and I was on suicide watch for a while. And unfortunately, as I was getting better, the campaigning helped me, get back on my feet mentally. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole, as I say, with this campaigning, the neglect and abuse of the elderly, and went through the whole warren, come back up the other side. But because I was recovering from this nervous breakdown, everyone thought I'd lost the plot again. And no one listened to me. That, yeah, okay. And then it was years later, one of my friends said to me, and by then I was meditating and all the rest of it, and whereas I'd been known to be a big wild party animal in the past, I say everyone thought I'd lost the plot. And then one of my friends said to me, she said, "You're not as mental as we think, are you?" And I said, no, I just want everyone else to have their eyes opened and see what I can see.
Yeah.
And she said, I realise now, things you've been telling us, things are starting to happen. And, she said, and that you see the sequence, and, and eventually everyone around me was like, okay, you're not mad. So when all this happened with, COVID and all the rest of it, thankfully those around me are already awake and aware. So they're like that, right, okay, what's happening next, Niamh? Because you seem to know the score, what's happening, like on some oracle. But I just say, look, it's all there, black and white. You only have to read it, so we know what's coming. We know that they've been trying to suppress us consciously, and the spiritual war, the prophecies of the Bible. And I know I sound barking mad when I say that, but it's all there. The protocols, the Elders of Zion, the World Economic Forum website. The
book of Revelations is just like
literally unraveled, isn't it? And I've never been a religious person, and even I've studied this and gone like, whoa, But because again, that level of consciousness is suppressed, and we're surrounded by apps, technology, and stuff like that, because that's where they want to keep us. It's that your third eye is closed, that gland is closed, isn't it? Because that's where they want you. If you can actually do things to open that gland and that third eye opens, you can see things so much clearer. And that's been the case for me for a long time now. Half the reason I've had half the battles I've had with people is, and it comes down to something so simple like that third eye isn't open.
Yes. Well, as I say, I'm grateful for the experiences I've had, even for what they did to me as a whistleblower, because it's empowered me with the knowledge that I have now. And I was absolutely blown away when I was in my early 20s as a theatre nurse, assisting with orthopaedic surgery, the most painful surgery you can have, with a lady having no anaesthetic, no Western drugs whatsoever. And as I say, that led me on a path, and I now practice Reiki, and I'm into plant and herb medicine, and that helped me really open my eyes and my nursing, and dealing with people with dementia and all the complexities that comes with in managing dementia units. So my consciousness and my third eye and sort of awareness has been enhanced because of all these different experiences, and have enabled me and facilitated me with what I'm doing now as well. Everything happens for a reason, as they say, AJ. You just got to learn and grow from it.
Yeah, 100%. And I had this exact same conversation on Harry's show yesterday about, I feel personally like the journey that I've had in the military, and the places you go and the things you see, the best and worst in humanity. And, I've talked about it in my talks. I think it's kind of shaped me to be doing what I'm doing now, because, when you've seen like what psychological and spiritual warfare looks like in different countries, and the damage it's caused on people, but also how the West or the globalists' feet, aren't in certain countries. So you ask yourself, well, why? In places like Sierra Leone, where I do charity work and stuff like that, there's not a McDonald's in sight. There's not, all this kind of stuff. Well, why is that? Well, we know that obviously they're one of the biggest producers of diamonds, and Mr. I call him Mr. because he's not a sir. Tony Blair owns the biggest diamond mine in the whole of Sierra Leone. I wonder how he acquired that. Again, people do their digging and stuff. They can really get a feel for just how satanic and demonic this whole network of individuals are that are trying to do things to the human population. But we're winning, and that's the key thing people need to realize, like we are. And I think, you know, we just make it harder and harder and harder for them. They lose quicker the more conscious people become.
Absolutely. And as I say, I'm very fortunate that people that I love around me started waking up a long time ago, because, you know, they realised that I'm not as mad as they thought I was. And now I've got a 5-year-old grandson and 8-year-old granddaughter. And I asked my daughter and my son-in-law a while ago, a good few years ago, could I teach my grandchildren the knowledge that I now have that, you know, has been suppressed from us all? And thankfully, and I'm grateful to both of them, because they both said to me, yes, you can. Just one condition. I said, go on. They went, don't mention the lizards. So I went, okay.
Yeah.
But of course, that's people's ignorance. Mention lizards, they're thinking of, you know, geckos and chameleons, you know, they're not thinking of vibrational frequencies, you know, it's just again. But no, I've not mentioned the lizards. But my my granddaughter certainly knows about consciousness, the third eye, and, you know, connection with the universe. And yeah, and she's quite a spiritual little being. She is.
Amazing. And that, you know, that must be quite a proud thing to see quite often, compared to, you know, how indoctrinated most kids are nowadays. You know, they're literally glued to their Xboxes and TikTok, aren't they? And you just see it everywhere you go. You know, they communicate with each other. That's what I've been quite conscious about with my football team, for example. You know, constantly working on their communication skills and their actual confidence, because you know, you can see it in a lot of other teams, and that, you know, some kids don't even open their mouths. And you can just see where that comes from. So no, that is truly amazing. So what, for anybody watching and listening who wants to sort of like get started with, you know, growing their own food and doing things a bit more holistic, like where would you suggest people start?
Well, first of all, yeah, you need to form a community with like-minded people. So yeah, Stand in the Park is a great place to network. Also, your local social media pages, look out for people who are making, you know, truther comments and like-minded sort of philosophies and ideologies. And then reach out, and then, I say, pool knowledge, skills, and what you're willing to teach, and also resources, you know, DIY tools, gardening tools, anything that, you know, may help a community and advance the community. And then just reach out, and we now have a directory of services with everyone's name in, who covers what skills. And so we've got everything from DIY, cooking, baking, all levels of healthcare, up to, you know, teaching musical instruments, dance, everything you can think of. And the directory just has people's names, the geographical areas they're willing to cover. And we have Telegram groups, so the members can contact each other directly and arrange between themselves, you know, book a job and a service, and then they just connect with the admin for that team, for domestic services or transport or the health, and then the admin sorts out the time banking side of things. I coordinate the life skills and the tutoring. We've got Lynn, who coordinates the, and Jackie, who coordinates the healthcare. We've got Laura and Donna, who coordinates the transport. We've got Dawn, who coordinates the land and growing. She also does domestic services as well. And we've got Paul, two Pauls, who deal with the time banking element and developing the technical side. And we've got Ben, who's been absolutely phenomenal in networking. As I say, I've got an absolutely brilliant team, without whom, you know, I wouldn't have been able to get any of this project off the ground.
Amazing. And if people want to reach out and get in contact with yourself or people within the team, is it the best place, Telegram?
Well, our actual Telegram group is just for our own hub members. So the best way to contact me would be via email, which is us, because we used to be called the Utopian Society, and everyone thought that was a bit naff, so we shortened it to us. So it's US hyphen Wirral, WIRRAL, at protonmail.com.
Cool. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. Amazing. Well, Niamh, thanks for taking the time to come on the show today and share such amazing wisdom about some quite simplistic things that have gone amiss in our societies that you've now brought to the forefront of people's consciousness. To try and bring back into the forefront of people's minds and strip us back to basics a little bit to what we should be doing, and like you said, connecting with the earth, and cascading that from child upwards, which I think is massively important. I'm really chuffed to have finally got you onto the show to explain the amazing projects that you've been doing and the models you're creating and how we can then obviously cascade that across the country. So guys and girls, if you want to get involved, please get in touch with Niamh at the earliest opportunity. Start learning about being more self-sufficient, because there is potential food shortages coming the way the West is trying to blame it on other countries for what's going on within our own shores. So please educate yourself and surround yourself with like-minded people, so we don't get caught out. It's as simple as that.
Thanks for having me on the show, AJ. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you.
You're massively welcome. Guys and girls, if you enjoyed today's show, please share it with at least one person. That's all we ask. Because I'm sure there's people out there that would benefit greatly from the information we shared today between myself and Niamh. But from myself and Niamh, look after yourself, stay healthy, and I'll see you again very, very soon on the AJ Roberts